Everyone has a story to tell. It's my mission to tell it. Unscripted, unedited. We are on the record. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarina Fazan, and thank you so much for joining us on the record. Today, stories of success and entrepreneurs. I never imagined I would be one, but here I am. So how did I survive it? I turned to great leaders and friends. Brian Loftin, president of ViaTeK, Aakash Patel. What are we calling you? Founder?
Founder and president of Elevating. Yeah.
There you go. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so two people, two men that I greatly respect, two very different industries that you're in, but I feel similar stories of success, on how you got started. But let's start with your companies first. Brian, I'll start with you. Let's talk about ViaTeK. What does ViaTeK do?
So we're an end-of-life and asset management company dealing in used IT and electronic-related equipment for a lot of corporations nationwide. We're a solution for when they have to get rid of everything out of their offices and or stores, we take it out for them. We protect their environmental liabilities, as well as we destroy data and information that can be in any of their IT equipment.
And I want to note that Brian actually is going to be on the pilot episode of CEO 360,
Yes.
where we talk a little bit more about your business. So thank you so much for coming back.
Absolutely.
Onto this show. How long has ViaTeK been around?
So ViaTeK, we've been around in existence since 1994. I took it over in 2000. So we've got a nice, I think, I can't even do the math. It's 28 years that we've been around. So a nice long time.
And in multiple states?
In multiple states, yes. We're nationwide. We have a warehouse and offices here in the Tampa area, as well as Atlanta and then Phoenix.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go back, though, where you started, but we'll get to that in a moment. Aakash Patel. All right. Tell us about Elevate. And do you feel that, I remember the Bollywood days when we found out that Bollywood was coming to Tampa, Florida. Is that when you would say your business really took off?
Yeah, I think I started the concept in 2011, but we launched basically 2012. And Elevate Inc. is a consulting firm that works with companies that relocate their headquarters and entrepreneurs that are starting businesses. We help with outsourced business development and marketing. And so the reason we were starting is a lot of our friends were having this bug, like we all now have, and we're starting businesses, and they wanted to meet people, but didn't know how to do it effectively. And so as I was coaching and talking to people, they said, this is a business. So I started creating a business model. And right around 2014, when we were working on the green carpet at IFA, is really when a lot of people get to notice that, hey, instead of hiring someone in-house, we can hire a consulting firm. And so we took off around that.
So the bottom line is, every single mayor in Tampa, going back to Pam Iorio, Bob Buckhorn, Jane Castor now, always says, Aakash Patel has the best job. He basically connects people.
Yeah, it's not work if you love what you do every day, right, Brian? I mean, yeah. And so every day people call me, different clients, and they say, hey, do you know XYZ banker or do you know XYZ CPA? And I do, and I just happen to make two people connect. And we can't promise business is going to come from it, but in 10 and a half years of doing this, a lot of business has been happening.
So did you think that concept, though, would work?
Yeah, I did, because there was a lot of people that join organizations, and there's a lot of organizations you and I are part of and we're active taking a role in. And they weren't getting what they wanted. What they wanted was instant results. And it's hard to get instant results when you have to really figure out what's right. And so since I had been networking for such a long time, I kind of knew the people that were really good for me to network with and pass on. And so, but what it was really hard to do is getting customers. It's like you gotta go sell yourself, and you don't have a lot of experience. And so I started this at 27, and looking back, I'm like, man, I can't believe people took a chance on me, but I'm so grateful they did.
And how many customers would you say you have? Like, how big is your company right now?
We have 30 companies we represent, and we have 5 employees.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so we're hearing these guys, great stories of success. But as all great stories, there's the beginning. And, people always say, don't give up. Because, Brian, share with us how you started.
Well, I mean, basically with a phone and a computer. And it was when I was hired on at the first company that I bought and sold used computer equipment for, they were like, here's a phone, here's a contact list, and just start calling. And so, in my mind, I'm like, all right, I got to get in front of people. I've got to get people listening to me. So I just developed a system every day of how many calls I was going to make. And then I would put down how many people I actually spoke to. And then and then how many real deals or potential deals that I had out of those that I spoke to.
Okay, so let me ask you though, were you an employee at this time? Or
Yes.
Okay, so you were working
I was an employee at the time.
Okay, all right, so continue, please.
Yeah, so I mean, I obviously was just made sure that I cold called every day. And no matter, the first thing that I got into the office, I was like, I'm going to make my calls first, and then I'm going to work on the deals that I feel like, can come to fruition. And I just kept that going. And I always try to get people to relate it to working out. If you go to the gym 5-6 days a week, whatever, over time, you're going to see the results. You're not going to see it right away. And I felt that way with cold calling as well. As long as I'm making these calls, then eventually business is going to come from it.
Okay, so let me stop you for a minute though, because the thought for me, right, is coming from a journalist background. Of course, we make calls all the time, to get our stories, but to cold call seems, it's giving me heart palpitations right now. So for someone out there is like, oh my gosh, I can't just make a cold call. What advice would you give?
Well, that's...
Or is it part of your personality?
Yeah, I think it's a part of my personality because for me, I never was good face-to-face with people. And a lot of people are like, what? I'm able to interact with people and talk, but approaching people in person about selling them a product and or a service, I just never was good at it. But I knew I could hide behind that phone. And if they told me no, or if they told me to take a hike or whatever, I was comfortable with that. It wasn't a big deal. And then it was a game to me. I would put that person down and I'd be like, I'm going to call them back in 30 days. And sure enough, I would, and then you might catch them at a better time, and then I would end up getting business with them, and then I'd develop a relationship. I'd be like, the first time I ever called you, you told me to take a hike. But no, it's just, it's something, if you're in sales or if you're pushing a service, there's several ways to go about it. It's just the way that I chose to go about it. A lot of people will do emails or maybe they do networking and they get out and start, networking within the community. But for me, it was like, I felt like I could get the most done and get my service and myself in front of more people if I just hammered out the calls. And I would make over 100 phone calls a day, and I made sure that I did it every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who wouldn't fall in love with that voice? Come on now, Brian Loftin. Now, Aakash, I'm going to go back to more of your story, but Aakash, one of my favorite stories that I tell my interns, in fact, here's how I get my interns started, is your story about saving people's contacts. Share the story about the plane.
Yeah, so and cold calling is definitely an art, and I give you a lot of credit for it. But for me, it's about, just like you said, you go, no matter where you go, you carry a stack of business cards. You can go to Publix, you can go to the gym, wherever you go, carry a stack of business cards. I was traveling on a plane, and I met someone on a plane.
How old were you though? We got to go back to how old you were.
I was a junior in college, so I was at Florida State University, Go Noles. And I was flying from Tallahassee to Philadelphia, which is not like a big, busy flight, but it was Christmas time, and Philadelphia airport had some baggage claim issues. So I'd sat next to someone on a plane who didn't really want to interact. You're kind of like busy reading your book or whatever. But we had a small conversation, and the baggage claim got delayed. So we were at baggage claim again after sitting next to each other for 2 hours. And I said, hey, listen, do you have your card? And he said, yeah, actually I have my card. And so I got his card, and he got my card.
And I want to stop for a moment. Keep in mind, here's someone, when they were sitting on the plane, it's not like they were chatting away.
There wasn't engaged. It was more of a hi, hello, and kind of just move on with your day.
But you took the initiative. Okay.
And I got the contact information, and then you're always, when you graduate college or you're about to graduate college, or even when you're in college, you're trying to look for the next opportunity. And even when you're in sales, you're always looking for the next opportunity. So I take the business card and I open up Microsoft Excel and I put everything in there, like their first name, their last name, their contact, email address, where I met them, the phone number, and then little details, small little details like was on the plane on US Airways or whatever airline it was, Tallahassee to Philadelphia, whatever the flight number was. And then I just stay in touch every 6 months or so. And when I say stay in touch, I just write a simple email. Keeping in touch, how are you doing? What's going on? Anything I can do to help? And the person reached back out to me and said, hey, because at the time I was working in Tallahassee in journalism at the Tampa Bay Times, said, hey, do you mind if I get a copy of this issue? And I worked at the Tampa Bay Times, so I had plenty of copies of whatever that issue was, or I could request it. And so, of course, I got it, and then what happens? You kind of lose touch again, because life gets in the way when you're not in front of someone every day. And then when I was looking for an opportunity to graduate, when I was graduating looking for a job, I sent that same person an email, hey, do you remember me? We went on a flight. I gave you this copy of the Times 6 months ago. Do you have any openings at your company? And he wrote back saying, actually, I have one in Tampa, Florida. You should move here and let me know when you can start.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
That's how I moved to Tampa, because of random connection on a plane. But I tell people that's happens every day in business. You just got to put yourself out there and stay in touch. The biggest key, and we talk to people all the time, especially our clients who work with it, they don't follow up. So if you go into an event and you get their business card, you've got to keep in touch with them. And not just one time, because people get busy. You're a CEO, you get busy. You got to stay in touch. And it doesn't matter, whatever form works for you. It could be phone call, it could be text, it could be email, it could be even handwritten letters. But stay in touch with people if you meet them.
So Brian, yeah, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I mean, and you asked what kind of advice can I give? I mean, that's the biggest thing. Obviously, you have your own style and the way you want to go about meeting people and trying to get new business. But the key that he's saying there, and which, I did it as well, is I had a software, and it's being detailed and taking the notes, following up with people, and just staying in touch with them in general, because you never know what's going to happen. And I see a lot of salespeople. That's where they fail. They feel like they can get out there, they can call, they can meet people. But if you're not paying attention to the details and following up, then it's going to be, because you're in it for the long haul, right? I mean, there's clients that I have that took me 5-6 years to get.
Wow.
But I never quit calling on them. And then I've had one client I've stayed in touch with for 15 years. Never got a lick of business from him, but I know the guy inside and out. We talk about his family, we talk about everything, but I feel like all those little details add up, and that's exactly that. That's the biggest key to me in success, is just having a system and following it.
So when you talked about the software, is there a particular software system that you used?
Yeah, it was called ACT, and it's just a database. And I would go in there and I was cold calling from one system, but every time I made a contact with someone and said hello, or they didn't need my services, or they did, or they might, or whatever it was, then I would go ahead. I took a time out during the day, and I would enter those people into the system. And then I would set reminders, and it was always a reminder that would pop up. I need to call this individual. I need to check in on them. Even if they didn't have any business for me, even if they had a contract in place, I stayed in touch with them, because, like I said, you're in it for the long haul.
So, so you're shaking your head right now, Aakash, and reacting to Brian too when he said sometimes it's 5 or 6 years.
Right.
But what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is so people get busy. So if you set a reminder, so ours is very strict. You should meet at least 5 to 10 people at every event, and then it would follow up within 24 hours. But since you're going to an event on Wednesday, you put in your calendar to block off that hour the next day, and it's just follow-up time. Right, so if you meet people, then you follow up the next day. And what I find is that people are impressed that, okay, you followed up right away because you're interested. You really want their business, right? And then that kind of like persistence, they appreciate. And then, like you said, you stay in touch every time you're doing something great. So this show, we're on the show together. We get this link. I'm going to shoot it out to all the customers that I currently have, but more importantly, the customers that we don't have yet, and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Check out my friend Sarina Fazan. Check out our show, and Brian. And this way they say, wow, we're not even doing business with Aakash or Brian or Sarina, and we should. Why are we not on the show?
I love that. I love that. So let me ask you guys this before we go to a break, because yes, I know how important it is to keep in touch and follow up, but what would you say to those people? They're like, oh my gosh, I mean, there's so many emails, there's not enough time in the day. I feel overwhelmed by it.
Well, I mean, I'm always big on telling a lot of people, just don't overthink it. Just get up every day and do it. Don't overthink it. Don't overwhelm yourself. So, I mean, it's do what you can accomplish and stay focused, right? I mean, I would sit down. Of course, I tricked myself. I was like, I'm scratching off lottery tickets here. But I would set my goals each day, and then I made sure I hit them, and the success will come. But if you try to think about the big picture, I mean, I sat down. I had 5,000 square feet of warehouse when I went out on my own. I had 2 employees, and if I would have sat there and said, hey, I need 3 big warehouses right now. I need 100 employees. I've got insurances. I got certifications. I've got leases or purchases and everything. It'll overwhelm you. So, simpler terms, dumb it down.
Yeah.
Keep it simple in the beginning and just stick with the little things just to get you going.
Boy, you guys are fascinating. All right, we're going to go to a break, and we're going to come back, and of course, I'm going to get more personal. How's that? Stay with us.
Label Swap is a retail store that you can bring in the items you don't want anymore. We will buy them for either a cash offer or store credit, and you can also shop the items as well. We carry anything from H&M, Lululemon, up to your luxury items like Gucci and Louis Vuitton. There's nothing really around like it here in the market. It is a fun, personalized experience.
About your skin. What bothers you? What are you trying to improve on?
Sammy's getting some self-love thanks to the Dream Team. Those teen years are the perfect time to start.
It's good for giving them that boost of my skin looks great. It helps with the confidence, also helps kind of clean out their skin, their pores, give them that kind of jump start so hopefully they start taking care of their skin before they get into the acne-prone age.
South Tampa Dermatology offers a number of options to keep your teen skin healthy and glowing.
So this is a light stimulating peel that is good for no downtime.
And getting facials with my 14-year-old is not just good for our skin, but a great way to spend time together.
Precision Garage Door, this is Sophia. How may I help you?
It's the people who work here that make the difference.
That's what we're all here for, teamwork, right?
Exactly, yeah.
That's why we're here for you today.
With one purpose:
if you need us, Precision is here for you.
To give their best to our customers.
We put out love and we get like 10 times back.
You get it coming back too.
Yeah.
We work for you. So thank you, Tampa Bay, for year after year making Precision Garage Door a top workplace.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to You On the Record. We're talking about success and business. I'm here with Brian Loftin, the president of ViaTeK, and Aakash Patel, the founder of Elevate Inc. Oh my gosh, two such different industries, right? But clearly you both are so successful, and thank you so much for all this advice you're giving us today. I love the show, though, as I said, because it's unedited, unscripted. We're going all over the place. Let's talk about the personal side, though, a little bit about your lives and what do you think, Brian? I mean, you've shared, you helped launch CEO 360. You shared with me after that show that your parents actually went through a bankruptcy. So do you think that affected you?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did. I had a couple of different things, though, that affected me. And, you know, you bringing that up and me thinking about it. I mean, as a kid, I always loved working, though. But we had to do chores around the house. My parents would pay us a weekly allowance. But, you know, and I thank my dad for it now, but he would always hold it over my head that he was giving me money. And I wanted that independence. I was like, I don't want to have to rely on them. And I don't want him bringing it up to me that, hey, I gave you $5 this week or $10. And so I started working at a very young age because I wanted my own money. And my brain started churning then, hey, I want to be, get into my own thing or be in the sales or be self, dependent. And then, of course, yes, at a very young age, I was early in high school. My parents went through bankruptcy. I saw the stress that it put on the family and how it affected everyone. And so that was motivating as well. And matter of fact, it's still a drive today. I'm very scared. I'm always just operating out of fear. And I don't know why. I can't let it go. But it's, everybody's got their certain thing that's going to help drive them and keep them motivated.
So you, though, from a very young age, knew you wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Well, I can't say that I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I wanted to be independent. I started cutting yards. I would target the very wealthy homes. I would cut the yards for them, and I would sit there riding my lawnmower or pushing the lawnmower, looking up at their homes and seeing, their success. And didn't know how I was going to get there. I just knew I wanted it. And so, whether it was sales or being an entrepreneur, I didn't know how I was going to get there.
But you just knew you would. Yeah. And I have to say, I had a chance to meet your parents. It was just by chance in Hyde Park, in Tampa. And Mr. and Mrs. Loftin, you've done a wonderful job with this one. He's fantastic.
They're fantastic. They're great.
They really are. Such lovely people. So hello to you, for sure. And then Aakash, let's talk about you. Do you feel that, I feel very blessed that this show is now seen, all over the place, even internationally.
Of course.
But in Tampa, do you feel like you have a very prominent family in Tampa, Florida? Did you feel the pressure, more pressure to succeed?
Yeah, my mom and dad are pharmacists. They met in pharmacy school, but my dad was born in Uganda. My mom was born in India. They met in pharmacy college, and they had a successful pharmacy business. And then my parents divorced. I relocated to Tampa, and so when you were new and you come to Tampa and after college, people are like, well, you're going to be like your dad, or you're going to follow your dad's footsteps. And really, I wanted to set my own path. And so when I had this idea of starting Elevate, people always are like, well, that's not. Why don't you just take the easy road and follow your family? I'm like, well, I want to do what I want to do. And you also don't know if it's going to succeed, right? So you're taking a big leap of faith, and I was very young at the time, but I felt the pressure that whatever I had to do, it had to be a success. And luckily I had a lot of mentors, including my family, that were like, do it now while you're young and see what happens. And thankfully, what's really funny is now, of course, we see him around, and you met my dad many times. He's very proud, and it's good because I think they had to see a little bit of independence, and I got to experience that at a young age.
Well, I want to give a shout out to your dad too, because he always likes and shares my posts. So thank you so much for that. I'm always like, oh, and he's always so kind in comments on my posts. So thank him.
Well, I appreciate that.
We thank him right now.
And I think that's the important part, is that you have families that have faith in you, but sometimes you just got to show that you've got to take that risk. And you said it right. I mean, look back, I'm like, this is the only thing I would want to do. I didn't know I was going to do this when I was in high school, but this worked out great.
So you get to this point, though, and Brian, you had shared this before, but talk about how, I loved when you were talking about giving yourself a salary, because people get overwhelmed with the financial part of it, right? Like set some financial boundaries, right? For yourself, because I mean that's really a scary part of entrepreneurship, is getting paid. Like, how do you pay yourself, and how are you comfortable with it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm very fortunate because I started my first business at 19, and I thought I was going to have to file bankruptcy, and so it was a huge lesson. I dropped out of college. Well, I got a 2-year degree, but it was the best education that I could get, and it taught me cash flow in a business, how much I pay myself. And so when the opportunity came again and I started this business or got it going, I was like, okay, I'm going to set a salary and I'm going to live by that lifestyle. Yeah. And the only way I'm going to get, I just call them bonuses. If we have a great year, then I can pull that money out. But I'm going to stay at that same level of income. Maybe you give yourself a 3, 4, 5% raise. And to this day, I still do it, because I never wanted cash flow issues for the company to suffer because of my lifestyle personally. Now, everybody operates different. Some people may, disagree with it, but it was something that I felt comfortable with. I didn't want to create a lifestyle that was so crazy. My company's having to fund me, and then all of a sudden the company has a bad year, but now it's going into big debt because it's funding my lifestyle. So I've always just done it the opposite. I'm going to base my lifestyle on this income, and then when I have the great years, I can pay myself well, and then if I don't, then it's not a big deal. The company's not going to suffer. I'm not going to suffer because I hadn't created that lifestyle. And a good example is, and you probably weren't started up, is in 2008 when we had the crash. I mean, it was huge. I mean, I saw my revenues drop in half. We were 25% of profitability than we were the prior year, but because we didn't have the cash flow issues, we survived. We were fine. There wasn't any stress. And we didn't make bad business decisions. So when you're under stress or under financial stress, you can make a lot of bad, decisions. So, in starting out, you're not going to be there right away. You just need to take it slow.
How do you determine your salary?
I've never thought about that.
Yeah. Isn't it? I mean, that's a tough one, right?
I had early in my career, from 24 to 23 to 26, I had made very, very good money for that age. But then once I started the company, I looked at my lifestyle and how I lived, and I was like, well, I only need this much a month, and I'm not going to be extravagant. I'm not going to be fancy. I'm going to enjoy myself and see people. And so at that time, I think I set it first time at like $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
And I was 20, actually I had to go backwards. I think I was 29, 30 years old, and I had to just set it at that. I was like, I can live off of it. And then as the years went along, then I increased it. I just looked at my lifestyle.
Yeah, I didn't pay myself for the first 2.5 years because I was trying to brand and get the marketing out there. And I was told that, just reinvest money and then save, right? So I put money back in the business, that whatever I made, and then I saved. And then, I didn't experience 08, but I did experience COVID-19 when all the events that we were going to get business out of or take our customers to were all shut down.
Right.
And you had to pivot into a Zoom world, which we now know.
Yeah.
But none of our team members left. In fact, I actually hired a couple people during the pandemic because their options had changed, and I had money saved for that opportunity.
Yep.
So,
Very smart.
gosh, such great advice throughout the show, guys. As we wrap up the show, though, do you have, say someone is out there and they're just like, gosh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. What words of encouragement would you give them? And do you feel, honestly, maybe entrepreneurship is not cut out for everybody either.
For me, I'm sure Brian has a lot of mentors too, but for me, I would say create a group of mentors that are not your family and not your friends, right? So the thing is that your family and friends are always going to be there for you. Find people in the business community or even people that you do business with, maybe it's your banker, your CPA, or your lawyer, whatever it is. Write down what you want to achieve and ask them honest opinion. If you just met me, didn't know my background, what would you think of this concept? And then just get feedback. And because at the end of the day, you're going to come across someone who's had an experience similar and they can share some advice. And so for me, the mentorship is key, especially when I started, because I had no idea. The confidence was there, but I needed more confidence. And I think the mentors really help. And then the point of that is to stay in touch with your mentors throughout the process, even when you're, growing. This is 10 and a half years in my business. I'm still staying in touch with the same mentors. Every other month, I'm having coffee with them.
Yeah, I would echo the same sentiments. I've created a group of people that I hang out with that share the same mentality. I run across a lot of people that are, trying to make it or make a go of something or have ideas, but then they're hanging out with people who are gonna, shut it down or say you can't do that. So create an environment where everybody's positive and looking to do the same thing, and be willing to do what it takes. I run across a lot of people who will share what they're trying to do with me, but then I get to know them and I get to talking to them, and it's just, there's a lot of sacrifices. 2 years without getting paid, that's unbelievable. I went 6 months one time and I thought that was great. So I'm very impressed. And willing to do what it takes. I have another buddy who owns office cleaning companies, and he's bought and sold and rolled them up. And I remember meeting him, and he was actually cleaning the offices. Yeah. And for me, I was driving the trucks and wrapping pallets and gathering equipment. And it's just doing whatever it takes. Obviously you got to work, smarter and learn as you go. But I see a lot of people not willing to dive in. They want it, but they don't want to dive in. So dive in. And don't overthink it. Just keep it simple in the beginning and take it a little bit at a time. Have your goals every day. You got to have the goals. You got to write them down. Have your long-term goals, your short-term goals. I hear it all the time, and people just won't do it. It's like having a to-do list. You have that to-do list, you'll get it done. But if you try to think, I got 15 things to do today, you'll sit there and just be overwhelmed the whole time. Just write it down, knock off one at a time. It's the same thing with business.
Brian Loftin, Aakash Patel, priceless advice. Honestly, thank you so much for being here. And guys, if you have a story you would like to share, please email us. It could be personal, love, business, community. And in fact, so many of our stories and our shows come from your ideas. You can also share the shows on multiple media platforms, and we're also on Roku with other major news coming up soon. As always, we so appreciate you joining us. And again, Aakash Patel, founder of Elevate, Brian Loftin, president of ViaTech. I learned so much today, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarina. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody.